Alright guys, it's me. I'm back. I know it's been I think it's been over a month since I posted anything or uploaded any videos. Sorry about that. I've been prepping to start a new job and I've had some other things going on. But in the meantime, I've also started playing a lot more Company of Heroes 2 multiplayer, and I'm trying to get better because I'm not really great at multiplayer strategy games. But I really enjoy playing as the American Army, so I figure I'll upload some replays for you guys and kind of talk about what I did that worked and what didn't work. And just keep in mind I am trying to get better, so hopefully we can all learn something from these, and I hope you enjoy them. So let's get going. I usually play back at 2 times the normal speed just so I can keep things moving at a decent rate. Immediately, with the strategy that I like to use, I push out a rear echelon squad and a rifleman squad immediately. I don't worry about rushing to the victory points. I try and get the resource flow, really going. I build caches on every point that I take. In my case, I always build fuel caches, and there's a reason for that. I need lots of armor in order to stand a chance against the Germans. And B, the strategy that I employ hardly uses any munitions until the end game, and by then I have almost a surplus of them. Now here I did something stupid and I moved my rear echelon squad away before this cache was done. I didn't notice that's what I had done. I thought I was clicking on the other squad, but I think just I had too much going on. Usually the 3 squads of infantry, that I have are more than enough to deal with any opening German squads, but in this case, that did not happen. Especially against the Sturm Pioneers, they're really powerful early game infantry, and I think the Germans really concentrated on this position. So I tried to build a fighting position because they're great defensive structures, but I lost the rear echelon squad, and it all fell apart. So back to base, get some more troops up and running. I go with the airborne strategy. I just like the units. I like the ability to airdrop lots of different units and things that I need. And I also really like the Pathfinder squad because they have a pair of sniper rifles and they can really engage infantry at a long range. They need support and they need another squad to basically hide behind, but they can pick apart most infantry squads with ease. I moved up to finish building this cache just because every resource helps. Every bit of fuel. I'd like to get my tanks out as early as possible, especially with this particular match. The Germans focused mostly on infantry, so I was able to kind of get an advantage early on by rolling out some armor. I usually skip lieutenant and go right to captain, but once again they were going heavy on the infantry, so I wanted to really have a strong anti-infantry response, and that BAR that they have is pretty good. I kind of counterattack here, but it doesn't really shake them too much. But anything I can do to keep their forces, on the defensive and sort of deplete their troops as much as possible. You don't want to give them time to really settle in. I'm also very much a defensive player myself, so attacking does not usually work out that well for me. Move up the Pathfinders. I really wanted to take out this machine gun squad, and I think I do. They had moved up another one, so they knew what they were doing. Yep, and I managed to take out the machine gun squad, but there's also just too much fire coming from them. I get some help from my Russian compatriots. These guys, both of my other team members were playing as the Russians, and they both really knew what they were doing. I moved up a utility car as well. Once again, some more of that anti-infantry support. I didn't have the chance to build armored skirts for it, but you should try and do that as much as possible just because these are pretty weak vehicles, even against infantry. So anything you can do to increase their survivability. I took engine damage, so I was like, let's get the hell out of here. I moved everybody back once again. I'm not afraid to retreat if it keeps my squads alive, because if squads survive and then gain veterancy, they become really powerful. Veterancy is very important in this game. I've just started to recently learn. If you have squads that are, at the maximum veterancy level, they'll just decimate anything that comes close to them, within reason, of course. I think I also bring up, yep, I bring up an ambulance by this point, because once again I like to keep my squads at full strength. Keep everybody healed up, keep everybody in good shape. These Pathfinders have already gained veterancy, so, you know, they've got a longer sight range, which is, for them, awesome. And that allows them to spot for other units. I think I bring up my Major really soon as well. Skipped the captain and went straight for the Major because I wanted to get armor up, because once again they were going heavy infantry, and there's an infantry that you know, as long as you can keep the pressure on moving armor up against infantry, usually the armor wins. And by this point I hadn't seen any anti-tank weapons on their infantry squads. I like my rear echelons to keep everything repaired as well. Like I said, I like to keep a fully functioning, fully repaired, fully healed army. Majors are good because they can call in artillery strikes and do recon flights, so you can spot the enemy. So, popular tactic is to spot the enemy and then bomb the enemy. Unfortunately, this rapid barrage, it's got to really be on target, or else it doesn't really do a whole lot, as you're about to see. I don't quite hit much of anything with it. I moved my guys up enough that I could call in this rapid barrage, and then I got everybody the hell back out again. I wanted to see if it would do anything. I think it might have killed a couple of their men, but it just, once again, it didn't quite have the effect I was hoping for. And they had a mortar squad in the rear, which that can be frustrating when you're playing against the Germans, because those mortar squads, if they can just shell you and you can't even see where they are, it's kind of frustrating. Or if you can't move your troops up to go after them, it's kind of a pain in the neck. Managed to get my first Sherman up and running. And of course I upgraded them with the 50 caliber machine gun, just because it makes the Sherman basically the ultimate anti-infantry vehicle. Shermans actually aren't that great against armor. You want to use them against infantry as much as possible. Save the tank destroyers for the armor. There we go. Russian buddies are still playing merry hell with their... No, they took out that mortar squad. That's always good. I think they were really trying to help me out, take the pressure off so that I could move up and capture this point. It was a good bit of teamwork, and we weren't really communicating at all, so I'm glad it worked out that way. And I destroyed the cache. I don't really bother to take this point, but if I can destroy the cache and deny them a few resources, that's, you know, every little bit helps. That's pretty much my motto, every little bit helps. I was getting everybody repaired. I airdropped in some paratroopers and then airdropped in an anti-tank gun, and I used the paratroopers to crew the anti-tank gun because paratroopers can be easily replenished, and you can upgrade them with some really good weapons. In this case, I gave them a pair of Browning light machine guns, which are great against infantry, of course. I wanted to kind of come back in force. Upgraded the armored skirts on the utility car. I like to keep my my ambulance not quite on the front lines, but close to it. That way everybody can kind of retreat. And anytime I play this map, this will be a familiar scene. I mean, I go after this point, as long as I spawn on the right side here. And then I hold this point, and I play defensively. I try and dig in and just hang on to it for dear life. And that's pretty much what I'm good at right now. As you can see, I put the anti-tank gun on the left flank. I hadn't seen any armor yet, but it's one of those matter of when instead of a matter of if with the Germans.
Tank destroyer is ready for orders.
And I moved up once again to more rear echelons. Not just for repairing, but I start building some more defensive positions as soon as I deal with this nasty problem of them shelling the shit out of me. Those infantry support guns and these rocket launchers can be an absolute just nightmare. Because you don't even see what's hitting you. And we can see it here because I've got the fog of war turned off, but I didn't see until I had moved that tank up, which as you can see I had lost. But in the meantime, I was trying to reinforce my position here. I was bringing up more armor. I brought up the my first tank destroyer, once again prepping for that eventual show of German armor. The tank destroyers are great, massive damage, long range, but they come apart like paper mache, so you have to really keep them back.
Fighting position machine gun is in
And they're
place.
still shelling me. I built a fighting position and put the rear echelon squad in it because A, you can upgrade the fighting position with a heavy machine gun, and B, the rear echelons will fire rifle grenades at no cost. No, they don't cost any resources. And those rifle grenades will absolutely shred infantry. I kind of threw my my utility car to the wolves here because I wanted to do anything I could to interfere with these units that were shelling me, but I also had some help here, a lot of help. My buddies brought up their flamethrower tanks, which will just great against gun crews like that. Sometimes it's hard to get a good angle against them, especially in a heavily wooded area like this, because you can't always navigate to where you want to be as easily.
Captain just took the battlefield.
I brought up my captain. And I saw that he had done a whole bunch of damage, so I wanted to take advantage of the situation and try and take out that unit as much as I could, which I managed to, which is great. But I think I also lose this tank. Yep. But keeping the rockets off me, you know, I can repel pretty much. I can repel almost any infantry attack here, just as long as I'm not under, you know, indirect fire from those artillery pieces at the same time.
One of our fighting positions is sustaining fire.
Move up, yep, I think they destroy that fighting position. Oh yeah, it's not the infantry that does it. I believe they call it a massive arty strike here. That's a popular German tactic, well, really it's just a tactic. You can use your troops to scout and then call in an artillery strike.
Enemies are swarming one of our
Ouch.
emplacements.
Luckily, my captain squad survived. Actually, so did my my rear echelons, but I lost the defensive position, but that's okay. Those paratroopers with those machine guns make short work with most infantry.
We just lost a unit.
Once again, getting some more help from my Russian compatriots here, those flamethrower tanks. Love them. Unfortunately, the Americans don't really have any flame units, other than, I think one of the doctrines gives flamethrowers to your riflemen, and then there's another one that gives them, you can upgrade your combat engineers, but that's about it. There's no flamethrower tank or anything like that, so you really got to rely on your infantry all the way through the entire game, whereas Russians can basically just move over to tanks at some point and never really bother with the infantry anymore. Finally started bringing up some vehicles. And they recruit a mortar just to piss me off, I guess.
Rear echelon troops
I don't like
on
being
front line.
shelled. I'd rather do a face-to-face.
Tank support is here. Sherman ready. Spread the men out.
I think I brought up a pair of Shermans here.
Cals up.
As you can see, I've got plenty of munitions. The only thing that uses them at this point is upgrading the tanks with the machine guns, the P-47 rocket strafe, and the Major's abilities. So, you know, all the other units only cost manpower and fuel.
Sherman ready.
So you have that surplus of munitions, like I said, and you can just kind of start calling in those abilities.
Bastards are picking a fight.
I dropped a machine gun, I believe, here, and I have this rear echelon crew it. That's another reason why the rear echelon is useful, because they're cheap and you can use them to crew weapons and that sort of thing, vehicles. Can't really stand up to that. But they're staying inside the point just long enough to capture it, but we're inflicting so many casualties on them that they have to fall back. Whereas, you know, when we go to recapture this point, there's not a whole lot they can do about it. I did manage to get a grenade out and hurt my Pathfinders, but I lost some troops here, but that's once again a good point. A good part about having the ambulance right here is I can just replenish right there. I don't have to march my troops all the way from my base back to the front line. And that's a very critically important thing, is being able to get your troops back into the fight as soon as possible.
Enemy forces now have 300 points remaining. Get your men covering the approaches. 50 cals up. Back to full strength.
Russians kind of just digging deep and managed to take out a rocket vehicle. That's probably one of the things that was shelling my position. In that case, you know, taking out a vehicle like that and hurting the Germans that way, it was probably worth it to lose that tank. You gotta, you know, that's basically what you gotta do, is decide, you know, if it's worth it to sacrifice this unit or that unit, as long as you do enough damage to the enemy. At this point I was kind of reinforcing everybody, but I think I kind of go on the offensive here in just a second. We've started winning and I wanted to keep the pressure up. What I decided to do, that's alright, I decided for them to attack one more time, to do as much damage to them as possible before they retreated, and then to kind of follow them to keep the pressure on. That way it's harder for them to get the reinforcements out. And there's where the American Army really comes into play. I moved my rear echelons up immediately, kept repairing it. Just got to keep on it, keep moving.
P-47 air support now available.
They finally started getting some tanks up. I'm surprised they didn't do it sooner. I mean, Germans, if they get access to their late game tanks, I mean, phew, you have to really be prepared for it and usually have them outnumbered or get lucky enough to hit them from the sides or the rear. But in this case, I think they waited just a little bit too long to get their armor out.
Hit him with the coax! We just got ourselves field promotion.
Like I said, I kept the pressure on, kept the Shermans at it. I think I lose one of them right here because the Panzerschrecks. I went up just a little too quickly.
Good fucking hit.
Yep. Could have gone either way though.
We just lost a medium tank.
But even though I lost one of the tanks, I wanted to keep it on. I mean, I had almost hit pop cap and I had this point pretty much locked down, so I decided to just keep rolling with it. I think I call in a P-47 rocket strafe here as well, which is great against armor. Yep, I called it in immediately. I backed off. And it comes in and hits him. Yep. Wow. And see, the nice thing about that ability is it will actually track tanks. It will prioritize tanks, and you know, it won't just hit in the exact position where you call in the ability, but will actually aim for vehicles, and I think they do several runs. You do a couple passes. I just kind of wanted to interfere with them a little bit. Unfortunately, I got destroyed, but
A medium tank was just lost.
I almost took that out. In the meantime, I called in a paratrooper squad to capture this point. Once again, deny them some resources and kind of just put some troops between me and the enemy. I should say the victory point and the enemy. I was hoping to get the light machine guns up for them, but it just didn't happen in time. But by this point, I felt like we had pretty much had it in the can, especially since the Russians had everything so locked down here. We had pretty much this entire area covered.
We lost an infantry unit. They got wiped out.
Yeah, they retook the point, but yeah, what are you gonna do? Fighting positions I love so much. At this point, yeah, I was basically keeping them from crossing the river. They still tried shelling the hell out of me, as you can see, but luckily that didn't hit me too hard. Not sure where all that smoke came from. I'm not overly familiar with the German units and abilities, so I don't know if that was somebody else or what that was. I brought up a motor carriage, which is not usually my thing, but I'm not an artillery kind of guy, but I figured, you know, if we're going to be defending the position, it's good to have something that can lob some munitions. At this point, it doesn't even matter that they're calling stuff in on me because they had 5 points. Obviously, we were winning. I think they just wanted to do what they could, you know, get as much XP before the match was over. So, I hope you guys really enjoyed this. I'm going to keep uploading these. They're not all going to be victories. You know, I lost some units here. No match goes perfectly. You know, if you guys have tips or constructive criticism or things you'd like to see next time, just let me know. In the meantime, I hope to keep uploading more of these, and as always, happy gaming.